The Boy and the Heron is the latest and quite possibly the final Studio Ghibli film directed by Hayao Miyazaki. It has now been a decade since Miyazaki's last full-length movie, The Wind Rises, was released in the theaters, and in that period of time there has been much change at the Japanese animation studio. All of that background information certainly played a role with the way The Boy and the Heron was developed, and there has been much anticipation and hype regarding its release. This is due to both its promotional material showcasing the same creative charm that we've come to expect from the director's other installments, as well as the very real possibility that it might be his final outing. It also might be due to the stacked cast that was selected for its English dub version release. Now, I watched the sub version, but I am very much interested in checking out the US version eventually. Part of The Boy and the Heron's charm is watching its story unfold before you, so I'll keep the plot details light. At its core is the tale of a young 12-year-old boy named Mojito, who after suffering a great loss, moves to the Japanese countryside with his family. It is here where he encounters a mysterious heron, whose ominous arrival draws Mojito into a surreal and wondrous journey, one that signals great implications for his family. Now, full disclosure, I have not watched the entirety of Miyazaki's filmography, although I have seen a great deal of it. My first experience with one of his movies was when I watched Spirited Away one night on Toonami when I was 10 years old, I think. I was immediately transfixed by its unique animation style and sense of wonder. It inspired me to watch several of his other subsequent films over the course of the next few years. There is truly no other talent like Miyazaki, and I was quite excited at the prospect of finally seeing one of his stories shown on the big screen. There was a large part of my viewing experience where I sat transfixed at seeing this wonderful visual spectacle in front of me. The director is able to create entire worlds that immerse viewers into the realm of the fantastical. And the way the tone is able to balance between the humorous and dark is also a commendable feat. I've talked before on this channel about the importance of creating a sense of synergy in a story's voice, and Miyazaki is able to achieve this in spades. We both laugh at the world's more funny moments and shiver at its more horrific implications. By the way, if there was an award for the most adorable creature shown in a 2023 movie, the Wara Wara would definitely win that prize. You can feel that this tale is one of, if not the most personal of all of the director's movies. It's one that deals with all sorts of complex themes, from grief and acceptance to legacies that pass on from generations. It is certainly an ambitious undertaking, and one that I do think unfortunately misses its mark when it comes to its final execution. Because while I did overall enjoy watching The Boy and the Heron, I would be disingenuous if I said that I found the experience to be without any kind of flaws. This movie gets a lot right with regards to conveying tone and scope, but to me its themes were a tad unrealized. I credit this to a story that took a while to get going. The pacing was a real problem for me, particularly in its first act. Not to say that I was bored. As I said earlier, I sat in awe at the great hand-drawn animation that was displayed, but I was not able to fully connect with any of the characters that were at the story's core. Mojito is a protagonist whose motivations are largely unknown in the beginning of the movie, but become more defined as the plot progresses. However, he lacked any of the charm or personality that has become a staple of Miyazaki's prior lead characters. It very well could be due to the fact that he is drawing from real-life experiences to inform the nature of the protagonist, but this ends up pushing Mojito into the background, as side characters that are way more interesting take the helm. But even as these side characters are entertaining in their own unique ways, they themselves lacked any real kind of depth. And by the time we got to the movie's conclusion, we are left with a handful of last-minute revelations that didn't quite click for me. I know that I'm in the minority with this take. I've seen a wave of support for The Boy and the Heron online, and that's great. Again, I was overjoyed at seeing a Studio Ghibli movie being shown in the theaters. And I do admire the amount of heart that Miyazaki infused into its story. But ultimately, it ended up feeling like more of a greatest hits album and less of a satisfying narrative, with callbacks to the visionary's more superior works. I will still issue a recommendation for you to go and see The Boy and the Heron, especially if you are a fan of the long line of Ghibli movies. Its visuals are a true spectacle to behold, and you can feel a great deal of emotion throughout its dreamlike structured story. I do plan on eventually rewatching it. If I can, the English dub would be my choice, if only just to hear Robert Pattinson's unhinged voice as the Heron. Who knows? Maybe its pacing and script will feel a lot more satisfying on a second viewing. If not, I still have its full creative world to go back and explore. With all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give The Boy and the Heron a B-.